Hi guys, it's Dr. Janet. I've noticed some repetitive areas in APA format, and that's what this presentation is going to be on. I tried searching the internet every time, every once in a while I'll send information, I'll share information in the news announcement area. However, I cannot and have not been able to find the type of information that I was searching for to share with you. I am trying to help you all format your APA citations and references correctly, and also using proper grammar and sentence structure in your discussion boards as well as in your course assignments. So what I've done here is I've actually created a PowerPoint presentation that I am going to share with you. And here on my screen, you'll see, again, it is Help with APA format. I created this with you guys in mind. And again, I really hope that you find the information helpful, that maybe you could go back through this presentation and stop the video and look to see how you can format. I've included specific types of information, references that I've seen you all use. And then this is the book, the APA Manual, 6th edition. It's a blue book. This is what we use in the university. A lot of universities use this book. On mine, I actually learned in my residency, got it spiral bound over at the FedEx Kinko's, and it's great because you can hold your book flat and then you can actually read how to format the information that's in this manual. As you can see, I still have all my post-it notes still in my book because those are the pages that I have visited personally myself when I was a student, and I still do reference the book. So when I talk about APA format, trust me, I am still using it, and this is not anything that I'm making up on my own. This is something that I have to follow as a professor here at the university, and so I want to go over this with you, and again, I hope that the information helps you. Now you'll hear myself and possibly other professors talk about using peer-reviewed sources. Peer-reviewed sources are those articles and publications that you find in your university library or even on Google Scholar. And what it is normally at the graduate level, we try to push for peer-reviewed sources, and those are the only types of sources that you're even allowed to use. However, in undergrad, I'm not too much of a stickler on using websites, or if you want to use a book, because we do have course books that we want you to reference. So that's fine. And I will have examples how to properly cite and reference those. But when we get to graduate school, we do start focusing more on peer-reviewed sources. But I wanted to touch on that and explain why, and it's because we want you to find the best research that's available for the topic. While you could go to a website that's out there on the internet and find some information, you can also know that the majority of the time, that information that you're gathering may not necessarily be a fact, or especially if it's statistical information, you want to get it from a reputable source. And because quite frankly, anybody can create a website. Just because it's on the internet does not mean it's true. The same holds true for a blog. A blog is a lot more of an informal approach to a website, but Google, who is the front runner for how search engines and search engine optimization will follow, they are the ones that spearhead everything, and these are the guidelines that we have to follow. So I just wanted to touch base on why we use peer-reviewed as opposed to a website, and that websites are not considered peer-reviewed, and even though you may ask yourself, say, well, I'm going to go to my university library, and my library is online, so you may be thinking it's a website, but it's not. It's completely different. The library, just like Google Scholar is, and Google itself is actually a database that we're using. And therefore, when we go to these library links and Google Scholar, which pulls from numerous libraries across the nation and the world, you will be finding information on a particular topic that has had a lot of in-depth research. They've done a lot of studies, whether it's qualitative or quantitative or a mixed method. But this is why we try to push to find credible sources other than just finding the first website that comes up when you do a Google search. Now on this screen, you'll see that I pulled up a screen for Google Scholar, and where I have entered, where I typed in, enter your search query here, you have the opportunity underneath to either select the radio button that allows you to find case law studies or articles. And in our university courses, at least the ones that I am teaching, we're going to always be using articles. Usually any case studies that we have will be provided for by the university. So you would type in your topic that you're looking for, make sure you have articles selected, and then hit the blue button. On this screen, you still see that I have the same enter your search query here, which is where you have your topic. And you see a list of results that comes up. On the left-hand column, under where it says articles, it gives you the dates that are available and some other options. And I always just leave these checked. You don't have to have patents checked off, but you can just leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. You definitely want it to say include citations, and I'll show you that in a few moments. Your middle column is going to show you all the different articles of information that came up, and on the right-hand side, you'll see a list of different sources from where this information is being pulled. Sometimes you're going to see lots of different universities with the .edu extension. Other times you'll see other organizations, you'll see government websites. You'll just see all different types of information. And this is how Google Scholar works. Now, if you click on the settings, up here in the left bar, you see the 3 lines under where it says Google Scholar, and then you're going to drop down and click on settings, and that's where I am on this page. And then underneath that, you see where it's already in red font here, it says library links. And when you click that, you get this page where you are able to choose up to 5 libraries. And you're just going to simply type in the name of your university library and hit the search. Sometimes you don't even have to hit search. Google will automatically find it. And then you put a check mark next to it. I will say that this is my own personal screenshot of my Google Scholar library. And yes, when you go there, or if you don't see your results coming up with your library, like on that previous page, check your settings and your library links, because that usually means that Google refreshed something and you lost your library link. So I had to enter mine again. And on this screen, again, you can choose up to 5 main libraries that you want to use. And so in here, I always leave the Open World Cat library search checked off as one of my library selections, because it literally searches the world for you. And then the other universities where I am a professor, I've included all of the university libraries. And there's one I did not check off because it's one for medical center, and I don't need that one. And I've already reached my maximum of 5, so I hit save. And now Google has filtered me and included all of those libraries. And if there is an article or a publication in the university library based on the topic that I'm searching for, you will begin to see it over here on this right-hand column. And then if you look, I also over here on the left where you can search, you can select that you want to search an article by any time. Honestly, the only time that you're going to use the anytime link is if you were researching a methodology or a theory and you want to find out who the original theorist is or the methodologist, then you're going to search anytime, because then Google will go back to the beginning of the database and find the oldest information that you would begin that research on. However, as you progress through your paper, you would bring up more current and relevant information. So outside of that, and for all of our coursework, I ask that you click on where it says since 2014, because we are in the year 2018. And so between the time period of 2014 and 2018, Google Scholar will pull up 4 years worth of information, and I think that is sufficient enough. You already have 19,200 results within less than, in less than a second, that or 8 seconds, that just going by where I typed in here, enter your search query here. Those are the amount of results that came up based on me typing that in. So when you're typing in a specific topic, you're going to get a lot more. So you really don't want to go back more than that 4-year or even 5-year range, because the 5-year range is going to give you the most relevant information. And as you can see here, Google has it already set, and you just click 2014, and then it reloads everything, and it shows you, like, the first one is showing that this was published in 2015. The second one was in 2017. So you can see the year here. This fourth one is from 2018. And so you can see that all of these are newer pieces of information, and this is what you want to use in your course material, because you really want to find the most recent information, especially when we're talking about anything that deals with technology, whether it be, especially in the business world, if we're talking about marketing or project management. We want to find the most relevant because technology is constantly changing. So on this search, what I did is I selected this very first one that comes from the health organization for the government's website. And when I clicked on that link that's on the right, it brings up this article with information. And what I will tell you is, clicking on, you want to find on your search results, you want to click on that link that's on the right-hand side, because if you click on the title that comes up on your search results, a lot of times when you click on that title, it's going to take you to a page that's going to ask you to pay for that information, and the only thing that you'll actually see is just the abstract. You're not going to see the entire article of information or the entire publication. So make sure you click on that right-hand column. If there's nothing there, just keep scrolling and keep looking, and sometimes you have to dig for your information to make sure that you're finding the right data to insert into your document. So on this one, I did click that government NIH link, and it brings me to this publication. And you can see all of the information here by all of the authors, the name of the title. You even see that when it was published initially, how it was published in 2015. And you see the DOI number, which is the Digital Object Identifier. And as I've explained in a different tutorial, the DOI number, that's exactly what it says. It's the Digital Object Identifier, telling you that this is exactly where you're going to find the article listed and information on the from the original authors. And then up here on the right, you see the different formats that you have available. And again, depending on the information you click on, this will change. The format will change, but this is typically how because this is coming, as you see here, from the U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institute of Health. And backtracking just a moment, if you remember when I selected my library links, I said I did not want the medical library. This is completely different. The NIH actually has set ground rules for when you begin to get into different types of research. If you end up going up to a doctoral level, the NIH is where you're going to have to go and get certain certifications to prove that you know how to ethically write your paper, that it is unbiased, and that you're doing your proper research. So I just want to explain that this particular paper and this organization is different from the medical library I mentioned earlier. But getting back to these links, you could click on any of these. Normally I just click on a PDF because I just want to open the PDF and read that document. So here I opened up the PDF, and again I see the same information, and if I were just to scroll down, I see that there's 18 pages on this document. I see who published it, I see the name of the publication, I see the issue number, I see all the page information and the DOI number, And then when you normally scroll down, again, you see it's 1 to 18 pages of 18 pages. And when you scroll down, I went down to page 18, and you can just view the entire document. And hopefully you'll find the information you're looking for. Now, another trick that I had mentioned in another video, and I wanted to bring up in this one to kind of help you begin to get your reference list together, is once you find a piece of information that pertains to your paper, you need to include that citation in your paper, but then you're going to also need to create your references page. Your references page is going to be on a separate page. That's why it's called a page. The word references is going to be at the very top. It is centered. You do not add a colon. You do not capitalize the word. It's just everything is Times New Roman, plain straight font. And again, it's references at the top, and then you start listing your references in alphabetical order by the author's last name. Please do not ever change the listing, the order of the authors in your reference list or even in your citations. Those authors are listed in that order for a specific reason. When we pull any kind of information and we cite and reference that information, these authors, as the one I have here in this example, they're in order of who provided the most amount of information, who was the main author or researcher, and then it goes in that order from that one. So please, please don't change the order of the authors when you're citing them or when you're referencing them. So now getting back to this Google Scholar page, I've showed in the other video how to do this, but I wanted to bring it up as I said earlier. Over here on the left, you could kind of see, because this is a pop-up window, you can see that there's the little quotes here. If you click on that, it brings up this little citation page, and it shows you there's 5 different formats on writing styles, and again, we use APA format. Go ahead and click on that box, and it's going to highlight it for you. This is the fastest way to grab your reference, to begin your reference list, and then all you do is copy that and paste it into your references list and make sure the formatting is correct. There's no reason for you to be struggling trying to type it all out when you have the ability to go to Google Scholar and grab it. And again, this citation may not be complete, because again, we know from me clicking on that very first article, we know that there's a DOI number that goes with this particular article, this publication. So what we would do is we would take this, we would copy it, and then we would paste it into our references list, and we would add the DOI number at the end. Now, the one thing I notice here is that it says that it's got pages 1 through 27. If you remember, when I pulled up that publication, we had 18 pages. So pay attention to that too, because sometimes you may open a document and there may not be the exact number of pages, or the page numbering may be different because this information may be part of a whole collaboration of different pieces of works. So you're just going to want to pay attention to that. Just a note. So now here, I want to get into writing your APA references, and I've got a few I want to share with you because these are the most common I see. And now for a book. On a book, the structure is the author's last name, first initial, and if they have a middle initial. Then we have the year published in parentheses, and then we have book, city, state, and publisher. Now here I have a book, and actually this is correct because I noticed that I missed a period up here, and I apologize. This particular book here, where it has Lamb, Hare, McDaniel, you still find the same format, and it ends in a period, and then you have the year 2017 in parentheses with a period. Now this particular book has 2 titles. Yeah, I guess you could say like a title and a subtitle, I guess you could call it. So you have Marketing 10 and a period, and then you have Principles of Marketing and a period. Just like in this APA manual that I showed earlier, you have 6th edition up here at the top, you have publication manual, you've got several lines of information. So depending on how this is, you know, how your book is written, you will end up writing it as 2 sentences, if that makes sense. And so when you see like multiple sentence or multiple title, for example, on a book cover, you will include both of them, but you're going to also make sure you put a period in here so that it breaks it apart. And whenever you have a punctuation, the next letter of the first word is also capitalized. And again, we're going to only capitalize the first letter of the first word in the title. Now for a website, there's 2 different ways to cite a website. And the first one is if there is an author on the website, it's the same type of format where you have last name, first initial, middle initial if there is one. And then normally on a website, you will see a year, month, date published, and then like the article title, and then you put in retrieved from URL. So here's an example of a reference for your references page of an author that had this article from a website written July 15, 2010, and you know that because you open up this website, you saw that there was an author's name, you saw that there was a date up at the top, and so you're going to write it in this format. And the article of this website was on water aerobics, excuse me, retrieved from this website address. Another note I want to mention is that some of you are still including retrieved on with a date and then from and then the URL. Please get rid of that second date over here. The APA format removed that several years ago, and it is no longer needed. So the only date you should have in your reference is the date of that information that you pulled from the website. Now, if you go to a website and you see that there's no author listed, what you'll do then, format changes a little bit when you don't see an author. The format changes to where now the title of the article or the title of the website takes the position of where your author is listed. So in this particular example, we could not find an author's name. So now we put the title here. Again, you follow the same format. The first letter of the first word is capitalized. All the other letters are lowercase. Now, Chile is uppercase because it's the name of a country, and you leave those alone. Doesn't matter what country is listed. If it's a company name, you leave it capitalized. If it is an acronym, for example, if it is SEO and it's in the title as, you know, for search engine optimization or any kind of industry acronym, leave the acronym uppercase, but all other words are going to be lowercase. You have a period and parentheses. If you find the full date, you're going to put the full date in where you'll have 2010, October 13, and close the parentheses, period, retrieved from, and the website URL. Now, sometimes on a website, you may not see the full date. Please do me and yourself a favor. Don't just look at the very top of the website and then put in their ND saying, oh, well, there's no date. I can guarantee you 9 times out of 10, if you scroll to the bottom of that website page, most chances are that you're going to see the year published down there at the very bottom. And most of the times you're going to see the most current year listed there. So instead, if this date hadn't been here and I went to this website and I scrolled to the very bottom and I saw that it says copyright 2018 or something like that, put 2018 in those parentheses. Don't put ND, because I can guarantee you, again, that if I go to that website, I'm going to find a year and I will mark you off for it, because I want you to be, you have to be, put your investigative cap on and do a little bit of digging to find out and make sure. Again, just imagine that your reputation relies on it and you want to present your best self forward. And so it will take a little bit, it's going to take a lot of practice, and I understand that. But again, these are all the things, is the more you practice, which is why I ask that you use your citations and references in your discussion boards, and then also on your paper, because it gives you more practice. Now, a properly formatted APA reference here, I posted it here, and this is several authors here, and this was 2015, and it shows the article says current protocols and bioinformatics. It's an issue 50, and volume 50, and excuse me, issue number 1, and pages 1 to 27, and the DOI number. And I accidentally hit the return key, and this line came up, and that's going to happen. You want to right click. So when you take your thing here, see, if you right click on that URL link, you're going to get a box that comes up in Word. For example, if you're using Word or whatever, you know, word processing program you're going to use, right click on it to remove the link, because APA format also is a stickler on we don't want to see links, or APA doesn't want to see links all throughout a document. So everything follows a format, everything is clean. So this is how your APA format would end up being, with no hyperlink. Now, I do know that in the discussion board it's more difficult to follow that format, so nobody is ever marked off, at least not in my classes, if you have the hyperlink there, because I don't expect you to go into the, even though you can, I don't expect you to go into the format and change the HTML and remove that hyperlink. That's, you know, that's kind of an unfair expectation. So in your discussion post, don't worry about it, but in your papers, yes, you need to remove that hyperlink so I can't click it. We don't want to click that. Now, getting to a blog I mentioned earlier, on a blog is similar to a website, where, yes, it is a website, but it's a blog. So it's written exactly the same. The only difference is where I have in red, where you put in the brackets, so you put blog post with a period, and that comes after the title. That's the only difference between a website listing and a blog listing. And then here's another one. See, that's the original, that would be a website link, whereas the one above is a blog link. And that's how you know the difference between the two. And again, this trusty APA manual is something that you really need to have sitting on your desk so you can open it and look through it, because it is a very, very valuable tool, and it's going to help you tremendously to know when, you know, because all these formats change depending on the type of information that you're using. Because as you saw earlier, a book is written differently than a website, and even blogs have differences than a website, even though they are technically a website too. So now moving on to the citations, or as I'll usually refer to them as in-text citations, same difference. Now your citations appear in the body of your paper. These direct your reader to your references page. That's why they're called in-text citations. So I think some students may not know the difference between a citation and a reference, but this is what the differences are. The citation tells the reader in your body of your paper, tells the reader as they're reading along, okay, well, this writer got this information from this particular source. So the reader knows that if I go to the bottom of the page and I look at your references page, that citation better be listed on the references. You know, they need to match. So if you have a citation, it needs to be in your reference list. Then me or anyone as a reader can go to your references page, and if I want to read more on your super interesting topic, I can go to that reference and I can read about it later. And that's how you give credit to another author, and then also send the reader on to that original author to find out more information. It's a matter of courtesy, it's a matter of ethics, it is how we do our writing. Now there are two different formats for a citation. You have the parenthetical which is in this format, where you, at the very end of the information that you found from the other author who you borrowed their work and you reworded it into your own words and rewrote it into your own words. At the end of that information, you would give credit to the original authors and you enclose their names in parentheses. You use an ampersand sign, not the word and. The word and does not belong in a parenthetical. Get them out of your parentheses. Put the ampersand. And then there's a comma and the year followed by a period. The narrative type of citation, there's a couple different ways you can write it, but this is the most common. It doesn't matter if you say according to Becker, Lee, and McAdoo 2017, however you want to write it. If the authors are somewhere in the beginning or the middle of your sentence, this is how you would write it as a narrative. You're still giving credit to the original authors. You're still citing the year of that reference that you found. You're still giving them credit. And again, at the very end, you always have a period. Please don't put your period before the parentheses. I know it sounds odd, but this is the way APA format is written. So your period always go. Just think of this parenthetical citation as being part of your complete sentence, and so just make sure the period follows that parenthesis. This is how you would cite an article. And that I meant, and I actually had the one earlier, and this happens to be a paper that was presented at the Project Management Institute Global Congress in 2013. And so again, this blue book is definitely worth every dollar that you spend on it, and it's worth, and it'll save you a ton of headaches getting through it. If you never want to see the book again, like I thought I was going to get rid of my book when I received my doctorate. I actually bequeathed it to my husband who was going for his bachelor's degree. And lo and behold, did I realize I was going to need to take it back after he graduated because he put it on the bookshelf. And now I'm using it to teach you guys, and I still have to reference it. So it is forever my book. Paraphrasing text. Now, you don't need to worry about reading this because it's a lot of text, and I normally don't ever do this on a PowerPoint presentation, but I want to show you pretend this is a typical paragraph. Now, just for notation information reasons, this entire paragraph actually came from the APA style.org website, and the entire information was actually information from the very first author here, Viglione, in 2010. But for the sake of teaching you how to write a paragraph with your narrative or parenthetical citations, I just made up some other authors just, again, for reference sake and just for teaching sake. The first sentence has the author at the very end, and so you see Viglione 2010. And then the second sentence, Parker, is the source that you used here. Now in the third sentence, we used Lewis, and instead of, you don't want to always put your authors at the very end or at the very beginning, you want to mix it up. And so on the third example, I have according to Lewis 2017, and then in the final sentence, I closed out that sentence with a fourth different resource, and so that's my fourth parenthetical, my fourth citation. Now, as you can see, I have 4 different authors here, which means I reviewed 4 different sources of information so that I can create my own paragraph based on what I found at these resources when I used my library through, whether through the University Library or Google Scholar. And now all 4 of these authors have to be listed on my references page at the very end of my document. You have to. Don't skip one or the other. They are not the same. The citations complements the references page. The references page complements the citation. This is how the reader knows that I want to read more from this particular author, they could go to your references page, find the additional information, and then go on, because from your reference, they could go on and read more from that particular author. I highly recommend when you're writing a paragraph that best practice to get into is to not cite the entire paragraph on one author. You will find that you will have formatting errors if you do. Unless you happen to follow the APA manual rules, I really recommend that you just find additional authors. Your paragraph is made up of 3 to 5 sentences. I prefer that you do 4 or 5 just to make it a more complete and concise piece of information and make it into a true paragraph. But also when you're including different authors, don't look at it as a chore, like, oh my gosh, I gotta go and find more references, because it can be time consuming, and it is. But again, you want to be presenting the best possible information and prove that you've done your homework, that you've done your research, and that what you're writing on, you found valid information, and these are the original authors where you found it. Because another note is that if, for example, you used an author here and somebody who's a professional reads something and is like, wait a minute, that's not right, they could always go back to the original author and be like, hey, you wrote this wrong and that's wrong information. You're covered because you cited that original author, and now whoever is investigating or whatever, reading the paper, can go to that original author and have them make a correction. So you're kind of covered on that aspect, if it makes sense. Again, periods. Period always goes at the very end after your parenthesis. Please don't put your period before the parenthesis. Let your period close out your sentence. Put it after the parentheses. Now the topic that I know everybody's just been so excited and can't wait to hear about is plagiarism. This is an area that honestly, it breaks my heart. It hurts. It really hurts to see it. I hate using the word plagiarism, and hate is a very strong word, but I just do not like using this word, but it is a reality. In the universities, the ones where we are, and many other universities across the United States, use Turnitin. Turnitin is a database that can search any university with thousands, if not millions, of papers, and including Google Scholar, and it can scan anything that gets put into its database. So when you find information out on the internet and you read it somewhere, if you read it and you're going to use it, please cite it. Include your citation and list it in your references page. Please cover yourself. Now, with that being said, the reasons that we avoid plagiarism is that we are writing to avoid stealing another person's idea. That's why we cite the information, as I showed previously. Now, I will also note that some students have not been aware of is that just because you cite it does not give you the right to copy it word for word. So you always want to rewrite that information into your own words. Now, with the internet and digital media, it's very easy to go on a website and find information and then just select the text, copy it, and paste it into your document. So if I call you out on and I say, hey, Turnitin said you have a high similarity score and it's looking like it's plagiarism, I'm not saying that you are plagiarizing, but I am telling you that Turnitin is telling you that you're plagiarizing. That's how they flag it. And they will highlight it through your document. That also brings it to your instructor's attention. So instead of coming back and saying, well, I don't copy text and paste it. Okay, well, maybe you didn't copy and paste, but maybe you sat there and you typed it out word for word. It's still the same thing. You still copy. So please, just don't do that. And if by chance you type out an entire paragraph and you submit your document and Turnitin comes back and highlights the entire paragraph and says, hey, this paragraph matches the same paragraph over at this other university that another student put in, guess what? I'm coming back to you and I'm going to tell you, look, your similarity report shows that your entire paragraph or your sentence is exactly the same as another student's paper that's at another university or within your own university. You need to rewrite it. Please do yourself a favor. When I offer for you to rewrite and resubmit your document, please do it. Just open your document, look at your Turnitin report because it highlights it for you. Look at all the areas that are similar, and if it is an entire sentence or if it's an entire paragraph that by chance you happen to write the entire paragraph exactly word for word as another student did, well, guess what? You're going to have to be the one to fix yours because the other one's already been published and it's already been put in the database. So please open your document, rewrite it, change the words. You can right click on words when you're using your Word program and you can find synonyms. The whole idea here is for you to use your critical thinking and critical writing skills. Take it and rewrite it. Get the same point across. And for that reason, as I mentioned in here on the slide, is that we want to limit the use of quoting other authors too, because then you could also face another problem of plagiarism, and you just don't want to deal with that. Same with don't plagiarize your own work. If you happen to be taking a course, maybe you've had to repeat a course, whatever the situation is, don't turn in your previous work and resubmit it. That's considered plagiarizing. You're self-plagiarizing, and it's not allowed in any university, and so you will be asked to rewrite it. I know that there are some professors out there that will just give you an automatic 0, not give you an opportunity, and they will report you for plagiarism, and you could be kicked out of the school. And that's the farthest thing, at least for me, to do, because I am here to help you. And so this is why I am constantly mentioning to please correct it, resubmit it by the date I ask you to resubmit it, and then we move on. Now, and again, you want to give credit to the source of where you found the information. Up here in this little yellow box, I included a quote that was from the APA website by Dr. Cooper in 2016, where he said, if the idea has been around for a while, you can cite the original source, the most representative source, or the most recent source. And again, that goes back to what I said earlier about looking for information that is like if you're doing research methodologies or theories, then you would want to find an original theorist, and because a lot of theories and methodologies do transform over time and morph into another one, and so you may end up having a theory or a methodology that had started in one point, and then over the course of 15 years or 20 years, maybe it's turned into something else that where now this is the particular theory or methodology that you want to write on. So that's basically what we're referring to there. But again, I want you to use the most relevant within 5 years of information. Another point I want to mention is please avoid using any of the APA online tools or quote machines that are out there. I know EasyBib is one. Usually they come up first when you're looking for information on APA format. Your library gives you plenty of resources to find. I've shared resources. I share examples. I give examples in my feedback on the grading within your grading rubric. Sometimes within your actual Turnitin document, and then your feedback in your Turnitin. But just know that these citation machines do not always correctly format your references. So I just recommend that you follow the format that I've shared. And if in doubt, buy this blue book. I don't make any profit from it, but buy this blue book so that you have it by your side. And then you can look in there and say, okay, here's an example, because there's tons in here. But I can look at this and I can see the example, and then I can know that, that you're citing it correctly. And again, when you use an online citation and reference tool, you're really limiting your own ability and to learn how to do it correctly. And my job here, my goal here is to help you learn and help you get through this. what I shared here. This is a portion of my doctoral study on my references page. And again, your references page will always be separate from the rest of your document. Now, in your discussion board post, when you have references, you don't need to worry about, tabbing down or, hitting the return key and going down. Just, put a few lines and then start writing your references. I understand, other instructors understand the discussion board format is different. However, you could write everything in your Word document, save it on your Word document, copy it and paste it into your discussion post, and then it would be correctly formatted. But if you just type directly in discussion post, that's fine. But the example I show here is just a portion of the references that I had on my dissertation and how you format. And if you notice that all of my authors are in alphabetical order by the author's last name, I did not change the order of the authors within each of the references. And you see I have my periods in the right place. My titles are correct. The very first word of the title is capitalized. Every other word is lowercase. The title of the articles, for example, and this author, the second author, VIT, for 2014, the publication that I used here was New Directions for Adult and Continuing Education. And so that there's a certain format for that. That's in italics. Journal and publications are in italics. And again, at the graduate doctoral level, you end up having to use peer-reviewed articles and publications and lots of DOI numbers. And so you get very good at that because, again, it's repetitious. On my entire paper, I had about 250 references in my references page, not even a page. It's a lot of references, but again, as I mentioned in the beginning, when you're providing any type of research and when you have your information published professionally and it's pulled from Google Scholar, for example, or from your university library, you can know for it beyond the shadow of a doubt that the person who wrote that information on that topic is an expert and they have done their research. On my particular project, I wrote about employee engagement in the small retail business. And so everything that and it happens to be a very new topic that only just really began, morphed into the methodology that was used, really only just came about in 2014, or 2011. And so, for example, the topic I chose ended up being a pretty difficult topic because there wasn't really any new information. But on the plus side, when you can't find a lot of information, then you know you're on the right track because you know that the topic has not been beat to death, and you can help actually set the groundwork on new research. So just to recap, all of your papers that you turn in must be, the margins need to be set correctly. Everything is in Times New Roman, 12-point font, double-spaced lines, and you indent the first line of every paragraph. Your indent is 5 spaces in, and you can have that set up so that your entire paper is correct. These are the page numbers that I believe are the most important that you may be using throughout your coursework, whether it's in undergrad or graduate. And anthropomorphism is one that I will mention periodically throughout your document when I grade your turn-it-in document and I go through. If you've ever read through my feedback on your turn-it-in report on your document, maybe you'll see like a little bubble. If you click on that bubble, you'll see what comment I made. A lot of times I already have a quick mark made where I explain what I'm talking about. This particular term means that if you see it on your paper, this means that you wrote something in your paper giving a human-like action to an inanimate object. For example, a research paper cannot perform the action of a human being. So you need to reword your text so that it is not giving an action, a live action as a human being would. You have, and there's more on page 69 in the APA manual. And in case you forgot, it's this blue book right here. Again, I'm going to always refer to this book. And I am including page numbers in my feedback now so that you can find it and hopefully, you know, and help you progress through your class. On page 177, there's information on citing authors and the different ways that we cite. Pages 77 to 86, there's a section on proper grammar. Again, I'm not making this stuff up. I'm following a format, and so all I ask is that you guys please comply and help me help you. There's information on hyphenated words. People don't realize that there's very few hyphenated words out there in the world, and words that we thought we would hyphenate, we're not supposed to. And again, a lot of these errors that I see on your papers, trust me, I've made them. My biggest thing, and I don't even have it on this list, is I have a problem writing in passive voice. Passive voice is when you write things in past tense. And in APA format, we need to be writing in active tense, like in tense, the here and now, what's happening now, not what will happen or may have happened. Again, what I just said, it may have happened, that ends up being passive voice. That's how we talk most of the time. So our normal everyday conversational language doesn't fly on APA format, and we kind of really have to get outside of our comfort zone and change that. Numbers, I will constantly, when we're writing dollar amounts, you will see me constantly mentioning that dollar amounts have to always be written out with the dollar sign in full down to the cents. Numbers, there's a set guideline between pages 111 and 114 that talks about how you are to write numbers. Most of the time, your numbers are going to be written out in words, not in number format. Numbers are saved specifically for dollar amounts, and then sometimes when you're talking about years, once you get 5 years or so, the format kind of changes. So if you have a copy of the APA manual, or go to the APA Style website, apastyle.org. Those are the people who create, you guessed it, this blue book. They're the ones that write it. They're the ones that tell us how to follow this stuff, okay? I'm not making it up. Other professors are not making this stuff up. It's really real, okay? So the next thing we have here is the plagiarism section is on page 170. It's amazing that something so serious and severe has one page, but I guess sometimes less is more, so please follow. Pronoun use, again, you want to avoid using a reference to yourself. You may refer to yourself as I, but only very limited. Again, we're talking about professional writing here, and in professional writing, when you're writing a marketing or a business plan, even when you're doing a marketing campaign, for example, regardless of what you're writing, you have to write it in a professional manner. And trust me, if you were to get up in front of CEOs and the top people in your company and give a presentation, as soon as you start referring to yourself and say, I will do this, or I researched this, they don't want to hear it. They want to know what you're doing for the company, for the betterment of the company, how you're spending company dollars, how you're going to communicate a situation, how you're going to develop, how you're going to approach a project. They want your input, but they don't want your input where you're referring to yourself. So please pay attention to that. You can refer to yourself as researcher, or there's different formats. So again, on these pages, 66, 68, 79 to 80, gives you examples on proper pronoun use. Same with punctuation marks. Those are in there. References has a huge page span from 198 to 215, because again, like I said earlier, I only shared a very few of the most common types of references that y'all are using in class. However, as you get more and more into writing and research, your references do change over time. And then line spacing, same different, there's a section on that. And wordiness is run-ons. If you're not meeting the required quota for an actual paragraph, and I tell you it's a run-on, that means that you have at least 2 or 3 sentences in that one sentence that you crammed in, and you could break it apart Take the easy way out. Take that sentence and make it into 3. If you need more help, please contact your university's library, the tutoring service, or the writing center for additional help. Of course, I'm always available as well. And again, the majority of this information that I received, I got from the American Psychological Association's website on APA style, directly out of their book that they published here. Nice spiral bound binding that I got put on myself. And that is the entire presentation. I know this went very long, and it is almost into an hour now, but I just wanted to go over this as thoroughly as possible. I hope that you found this information helpful, and please let me know if you need any help, and please reach out to the resources at the university, because everybody's here and they want to see you succeed. And I can't wait to watch you walk the stage and graduate and move forward and just be better because of your experiences here at the university, and as you move forward into your career. And I thank you so much for watching, and please make sure you come back and check it again. You can fast forward through the parts. So I hope it was helpful. Bye-bye.